Well, let's start with this then. Does he like a guy on his current roster more than maybe we aren't realizing? Does he like Jordan Matthews enough to say, you know what, guys, Jordan Matthews can go right into Macklin's spot, get 85 catches and 1,300 yards. Maybe we're missing that. Does he? Is Matthews the next, Jackson, who was Macklin, and now it's Matthews?
No way. I mean, history could prove me wrong on this future. I mean, I don't even think Jordan Matthews is an outside receiver. I don't think he can play the position. I think Jeremy Macklin is 10 times the outside receiver that Jordan Matthews is. But I think Jordan Matthews, the way his build is perfect for the slot, and I see him having a great slot career as long as he's with Chip Kelly and a good offense. Probably a career that mirrors Marquez Colston. I know that he has already been studying tape of Marquez Colston and asking Malcolm Jenkins about Marquez Colston's game and moves and what his, and how to kind of correlate one to the other. So I have a feeling he's married to the slot. Really, it's Josh Huff. The pressure is on Huff, who was a third-round pick last year and who has shown you when he does get the ball in his hands that he has some dynamite playmaking ability in him. Now, it was hard to get the ball in his hands, whether it was drops or fumbles or whatever, or his injuries. But he's a guy that if he can make that leap from year one to year two and get into Chip's offense that he knows so well and functions well in, then maybe you could see him. I don't know if you could see him having 85 and 1,300. I still think they're bringing in a veteran receiver, but he is a guy who can help bridge the gap.
Talking with CSNPhilly.com Eagles insider Geoff Mosher here on 97.3. Are there guys available that intrigue you that are still on the market?
Not really on the market, but some guys that might become on the market. I just mentioned Andre Johnson. I feel like as a veteran wide receiver, just like Frank Gore, you can bring him in here. You can move chains with him if he's willing to buy into the system and everything. I think that he kind of fits those Chip Kelly measurables and would probably be a good stopgap, a 1 or 2 year bridge to if Chip Kelly winds up using a draft pick this year, if he's got any left. For a wide receiver, because this is a strong receiver class, so I could see them drafting a receiver.
All right,
also.
Geoff, let's look at running back here. McCoy obviously was gone a week ago, and then they bring in Frank Gore. Do you like the replacement? Do you like the fit of Gore in Chip Kelly's offense replacing McCoy?
Love it. Mike, love it. I actually advocated for it last year. We done last week when we did. As soon as LaShawn traded, we kind of shifted our free agent preview series on CSNPhilly.com to running backs. It was myself and Ruben Frank, and we wrote one up on a preview on Frank Gore and explained why he'd be perfect for the system at a short-term deal, which he got, and not a lot of money. Now they did actually give him more money than I thought. I still think when we see the contract, it'll wind up being a low-risk deal, high-reward deal financially. But here's a guy who is a perfect zone runner, great feet, never loses yardage, never dances. He's never stopped behind the line of scrimmage unless there's an all-out blitz and 4 guys get him. Keeps the chain. He's perfect for what Chip Kelly's system is entailed to do, and that is it's a numerical blocking scheme, always designed to get positive yards because you always have the extra blocker. He's perfect. I think he's gotten better with age. He's shown no signs of breaking down. 1,100 years each of the last 4 years. Pro Bowl 3 of the last 4 years. And he's not coming here to carry the rock 25 times a game. So you put the sports science and the fact that he's taking a reduced role, maybe 8 to 10 carries, and I think he's a really good option.
I like to move a lot as well in the same sense as you mentioned here, Geoff. How do you see the backfield now being worked? Because you still have Sproles here. Polk is not back yet. Do you see Polk back, or do you think they go through the draft and find maybe Gore's replacement?
I do, but I do think they're going to get someone in the draft. I think they're going to go into this year with Polk, who will be back on a restricted free agent tender, the lowest one. So they're going to have Polk, they're going to have Gore, they're going to have Sproles. I still, they have Matthew Tucker on the practice squad, and they like him. They actually, he was up on the 43-man. The 53-man a couple of times, I think 2 years ago. Last year was totally practice squad. They have Kenyon Barner, who's an Oregon guy, so there's a shot for him too. So it's not like they're completely depleted of running backs. And, of course, I do think that those are after running back who they can groom.
Geoff Mosher, CSNPhilly.com, Eagles insider, looking at what's next for the Birds. They bring in Maxwell. Did you think too much money there? I mean, that's a pretty big deal. Was it a necessity to get him in here, though?
Yeah. I mean, did they overpay him? Yes. Was it a necessity? Yes. Clearly it was the guy they targeted, the guy they wanted. He became a necessity, I think, Mike, more than other guys, is because A, he's young, and B, he's a really good scheme fit. I mean, the type of defense the Eagles play, which is a lot of cover three early, a lot of man press on the outside when they're blitzing, is what Seattle does. So I think that's really why they were hoping to get Devin McCourty and make that push. So you almost had your Earl Thomas-like midfielder safety, and then your lockdown corner with your physical corner on the outside, Byron Maxwell. So now it's unfortunately for Chip, he's got to shift into Plan B here. But I get why they overpaid for Maxwell, because they wanted him. They didn't want anybody else to get him. They knew other people were going to be involved. Cornerbacks are always the most coveted position in free agency, so it made sense for them. Now, what have I been told about him? That he's a good corner. That any other year he's a $6 million a year corner and a great number 2 corner, not a great number 1 corner. But regardless, they needed him.
Obviously, a lot of people will look at Kerry Williams and say, well, he was the other guy. He was on a Super Bowl team. They had safeties behind him. You also had Nnamdi here, who's a little bit of a different situation. Is Maxwell somewhere between Nnamdi and Williams, or do you think he'll be better than both of those guys?
Man, if he is not better than Nnamdi, seriously, we got problems, man. I think, the fact that Nnamdi was older and just primed for the age of breaking down and was a big factor there, and then just an awful scouting job by the Eagles in that, or anticipation job by the Eagles there. This is a totally different situation. You just worry more that he comes from a scheme where there were so many good players that when you put him in the Eagles' defensive backfield, his strengths aren't capitalized as much. But I certainly see him as an upgrade over Kerry Williams. I don't know how much. I don't think Kerry Williams is as bad as people think. He uses his hands too much in the wrong way and gets penalized a lot. But, I know Des Bryant thinks very highly of Kerry Williams, and they called him one of the toughest guys he's ever gone up against. That's pretty high praise.
Well, and I've said that before, too. I think Williams gets a bad rap because this defense put him out in the field so much that, he's going to get picked on more than you really needed him to be picked on.
Right.
Geoff, what are some alternatives now that some of the bigger names are gone, McCourty's gone, and, if a Plan B is out there, who are some Plan Bs?
Well, at safety, I know they've checked in with Marcus Gilchrist from San Diego, so he's a pretty decent safety that's out there. I don't know about Ron Parker, but I feel like that would be a good fit as a guy who played cornerback and safety out there for the Chiefs. Really played a lot of safety after Eric Berry got diagnosed with cancer. I think he played 9 games of safety last year, did a nice job. He's kind of a name on the market. And then at cornerback, I've been told that there's a little bit of interest in Tramon Williams. We'll see. I reported last week that they had checked into Bryce McCain from the Steelers at the Combine. I mean, I think you get to a point here where they're going to have to put some money in outside linebacker, and I'm sure they're probably going to sign one, and it's probably going to cost them. So you're going to have to look at your next corner and safety and probably be a little bit less, forward with the money. It might have to be a little bit more cost efficient for you. It may even have to be like an Antonio Cromartie for a year or two as a bridge, and then same thing with a receiver, because they might bring in a veteran receiver that's going to cost them a little bit.
All right, Geoff, what do you make of the Sanchez deal? Were you surprised, and how do you read what he does by bringing Sanchez back? Because obviously, oh, my God, they brought a quarterback back. What does this mean? What does this mean for Foles? What does this mean for Mariota? What is is it as simple as saying, look, it's a guy they like as a backup, they feel comfortable with him, and that's what it is?
Oh, I mean, it's a lot of money. My first reaction was almost like how it's a
Oh, we lost Geoff here. We'll try to get him right back here on the Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN. This hour brought to you by Rira Irish Pub in the quarter of Tropicana. We'll get Geoff back on the line here as we're talking about Mark Sanchez. By the way, 2 years, $9 million deal. You heard Geoff there say, ooh, that was a lot of money. The way I read into Sanchez real fast before Geoff gets back on the line here was I look at Sanchez as a guy that Kelly feels safe with, feels like he can get more from Sanchez than he can from Foles. Remember, Foles ran the offense one extra year than Sanchez did. Now if Sanchez is here, he's run it for a full year. Now he'll be up to speed to where Foles was last year. I think I've said this all along. I think Kelly liked Sanchez more than he liked Foles. And mainly because he thinks Sanchez has more ability than Foles did. And Foles might have looked better at times or had a better record, but I think ultimately Kelly felt more comfortable with Mark Sanchez. So I think ultimately that's why he brought him back here. I think he'll either compete with Foles for the starting job, or that'll give them the ability to use Foles as trade bait. We'll get into this Kaepernick rumor coming up with Geoff in just a few moments here when we reconnect with Geoff Mosher of CSN Philly. But, Mark Sanchez, 2 years, $9 million. And one of the things Geoff was saying was he thought it was a lot of money to bring back Sanchez here. So what will his role end up being? What will his role end up being? How does Geoff Mosher, CSNPhilly.com, Eagles insider, read into that? We lost you right about where you talked about the dollar amount that Sanchez got.
You should have gone to a commercial. Great cliffhanger. You could have paid some bills with that one, right? I was just saying that I thought it was like almost like a Doug Peterson type signing where, he's going to have to maybe start some games and groom somebody like Mariota. But, then I checked into a little bit, and I'm not 100% sold that that's the case either. Obviously he had to start a lot of games. Obviously Nick Foles has a track record of injuries. And there might have been a team that was looking to sign Mark, and the Eagles felt they needed to have him, continuity, knowing the system, and that maybe they go into next year, and it's not necessarily a battle where Nick Foles has the advantage. Like last year, it wasn't really a battle. It was Nick Foles was the guy. Maybe next year it's a little bit more of a battle. We'll have to see. I think the moves that come up will give us more clarity on the quarterback situation.
Right. It appears that now I would assume that this means that Kelly at least feels comfortable enough with Sanchez that he could either A, have a quarterback competition between him and Foles, B, he can now trade Foles because he feels comfortable enough to use Sanchez, or as you mentioned, draft somebody and have Sanchez be that guy's backup or that guy's kind of groomer. So it looks like he trusted Sanchez enough to be either a starter and or a backup or provide competition.
Right. And I know Chip Kelly really liked Mark Sanchez and really thought he fit in well here. And obviously Mark came in here and showed he still had that interception problem, but his accuracy went way up. He set a franchise record for it. And more importantly, he stayed out of the news for all the wrong reasons. He didn't show any of that immaturity with the Jets, so he deserved to come back. The weird thing that you mentioned about trading Nick Foles, though, I'm not sure if we talked about it last week. It's tough to trade a quarterback going into the last year of his deal, especially if you're giving up a draft pick for him, because the agent knows you just gave up a draft pick for Nick Foles, and he's going to demand that his quarterback gets paid real well because he knows that the organization has to pay this guy, because if they don't and he walks, then it looks bad on the organization's part for giving up a pick for him. So it kind of gives all the leverage to the quarterback. So I'm not 100% sure there's going to be a great trade market for Nick Foles, unless it's like a player for player or something, I don't know, something different, intriguing. I mean, it's not that it's never been done before. I just think it's tricky.
Geoff Mosher, CSNPhilly.com, Eagles insider. Jeff, this team looks a lot different than it did 2 weeks ago. What is the end narrative here? Is this just, look, this McCoy-Macklin group they were what they were. They'd have no playoff wins. They were a good talent, but this was not a championship bunch. What do you make of the last 2 weeks of how different this team looks today? Is this Chip Kelly basically telling you, much like, Sam Henke did with the Sixers, look, this guy wasn't going to be – I'm letting you know now before 2 years down the road you're complaining about it. These guys weren't going to be good enough.
Yeah, and I don't even know if it's not being good enough. I just think that Chip has different values and builds a team differently than the way Andy and Howie Roseman were building the team. It doesn't mean it's right, doesn't mean it's wrong, it's just different. And you give a little bit of a hat tip to Chip for not being the typical head coach who the first day on the job guts the roster and tries to bring in all of his guys. He tried to win with Andy's guys, won good games with them, just didn't win it all. But in the end, I think after 2 years and the roster got a little older and guys were getting expensive at certain positions, he realized after he got all the power, which is what he needed first, he was going to make over that roster as he sees fit. And now we're just seeing the total Chip Kelly blueprint on the franchise, and it's going to get even more wacky and unconventional as the days go by. I guarantee you that. I
said at the top of the show, a lot of people think now this is ultimately a step back, because if they changed quarterbacks or because they got rid of Macklin and now McCoy's gone. So it's an offense without Macklin, no McCoy. You might not have a quarterback. I can't imagine in Chip Kelly's mind he signs Maxwell, goes out and gets Gore, and probably has more things up his sleeve with the thought that we're going to take a step back. Do you think that this team will be taking a step back because of the moves they made?
I think they could, but I don't think that's the intention of Chip Kelly at all. I mean, I believe he is retooling. I used the word rebuilding last week on TV, and I probably should have said retooling because I don't think his mindset is to lose more games. I think he thinks he's going to build up a team that's going to be better than it was last year because I don't think he feels like he needs that much time. But, there's reality and there's perception. We'll see if he can do that and challenge the laws of continuity in the NFL and go ahead and win a lot of games with a lot of new players in new spots.
Well, and keep in mind, when he got here, McCoy and Macklin and Jackson and none of those guys had been in his system. He had to teach them all and they had a pretty good year his first year here. So I'm assuming these new guys will be able to pick this up and be pretty good in year number one. And obviously, we have no answer, Jeff, as to who the quarterback will be for this team at this point, Foles, Sanchez, or whether they draft somebody. But do you think ultimately Nick Foles is going to be here when the season starts?
Well, today's Wednesday. What's today?
Monday.
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 Today's Monday? Oh, how about that? Today's Monday, so I'll say no, but tomorrow I might say yes, and Wednesday I might say no.
Anything?
Honestly, I really, it's hard to call. I mean, there's no clues, no inklings, there's nothing. Even people close to Nick Foles don't know.
Mm-hmm. Anything to these Kaepernick rumors at all, do you think?
I always think where there's smoke, there's fire. But, I mean, the denials from the 49ers are pretty strong. I can't see him taking a near $10 million cap hit. Yeah. That's what it would cost him to get rid of Kaepernick. So that's kind of a lot. Unless they're getting something great in return.
Wow, it's been a wild day or so, and free agency doesn't even open until tomorrow. Do you anticipate more tomorrow from Philadelphia?
I anticipate more as soon as I hang up the phone with you, to be honest.
All right, well, we'll let you hang up the phone and see what else is happening, and follow Jeff at Geoff Mosher CSN on Twitter, and, of course, Mondays right here on a Mosher Monday. Thank you, Jeff.
You got it, bro.
Take care. Geoff Mosher, everybody.